This tutorial will explore head pointing with Chat Fusion and Chat Point. Head pointing, also known as head tracking, using the Chat Point from Saltillo allows individuals who are unable to use their hands to use small head movements to control where the pointer moves on the screen. The Chat Point unit mounted on your device translates these head movements into pointer movements and activations or selections on the screen. The Chat Fusion communication system from Saltillo includes an optional camera called the Chat Point that is mounted on the top of the screen. Head pointing on the Chat Fusion can only be used if the Chat Point has also been purchased. With the Chat Point, you would be supplied with a sheet of reflective stickers or target dots. You will peel the stickers from the sheet and attach them to your head, the bridge of your glasses, or your nose, depending on your head position and/or a preference. The Chat Point calculates how light reflects off the dot to detect the user's head movement. The on-screen pointer moves with the user's head movements. To set up the Chat Fusion device for head pointing, you will need to turn the access method on. We will explore each of the settings. Tap Menu, Settings, Input, scroll to Head Pointing. Check Enable Head Pointing. You will then want to confirm that the Chat Point is tracking the reflective sticker. The LED on the front of the Chat Point unit indicates the current tracking status. Red indicates that the Chat Point unit is on, but is not tracking. Green indicates the unit is tracking the reflective dot. In order to fine-tune the experience for the user, there are many customizable options available to them. The settings will be particular to the individual, and it is strongly suggested that you adjust one setting at a time to get the ideal combination of settings for the individual. If you adjust more than one setting, it is difficult to know what to change if something isn't working well for them.
I want to drink chocolate milk. I want to drink chocolate milk.
Dwell time. The first and probably the most important setting is dwell time. Dwell time refers to the amount of time required to make an activation. As you move the pointer around the screen, it is the amount of time you will need to rest on the desired button or menu item before it will be selected. There tends to be a sweet spot for each user. That is, the perfect amount of time to dwell. If it is too short, it will be activating everything too quickly and often things you don't want to select. If it's too long, it will be tiring and also difficult for someone who has a tremor to rest on one spot. In addition, the longer the dwell time, the longer it will take to compose a message or accomplish a task. Tap Menu, Settings, Input, Head Pointing, Dwell Time, adjust the time, tap OK, and return to the vocabulary. I will demonstrate a 1-second dwell time and then a 3-second dwell time.
I want to eat cookies. I want to eat cookies.
Now with 3 seconds.
I want to eat cookies. I want to eat cookies.
Horizontal adjust. This refers to the amount of head movement required to move the pointer across the screen from one edge to the other. The larger the number, the less head movement it requires, or the faster it moves across the screen. The smaller the number, the more horizontal movement is required to move the pointer from one edge of the screen to the other. Vertical adjust. This refers to the amount of head movement required to move up and down the screen instead of across. If a user has very little head movement available to them, or it takes a large amount of effort to move their head, you would want these numbers to be higher. If, however, the user does not have great head control, meaning moving the head a small amount is difficult due to spasticity or other reasons, you are going to want the number to be smaller. This will need to be very particular to the individual. You may need to fine-tune both horizontal and vertical adjustments to meet the user's needs. Have the user move their head left and right and up and down to try to place the pointer in each corner of the screen. These tips might help you make adjustments to the horizontal and the vertical values. If the user has trouble reaching the left or right sides, increase the horizontal adjustment value. If the user has trouble reaching the top or bottom edges, increase the vertical adjustment value. If a slight head movement to the left or right moves the user off the edges of the screen, decrease the horizontal adjustment value. If a slight head movement up or down moves the user off the top and bottom edges, decrease the vertical adjustment value. If the user has trouble positioning the pointer in the corners of the screen, increase the horizontal adjustment and vertical adjustment values. If the user makes large head movements and loses the pointer, decrease the horizontal adjustment and/or vertical adjustment values. If the user makes small head movements, increase the horizontal adjustment and vertical adjustment values. Tap Menu, Settings, Input, Head Pointing, Horizontal Adjust and Vertical Adjust. Each setting will have a value you can adjust. This example uses large vertical and horizontal values. This example shows small vertical and horizontal values.
Do.
Pointer visual effects. There are several options available to you under the Pointer Visual Effects menu. Pointer opacity. Pointer opacity refers to how clearly the underlying image will show through the pointer. Increasing the opacity percentage makes the pointer more opaque, allowing less of the underlying image to show through. Menu, Settings, Input, Head Pointing, Pointer Visual Effects, Pointer Opacity. Adjust using plus and minus buttons. The higher the number, the more opaque the pointer.
That's cool. That's cool.
Pointer color. It's recommended that you use a bright color such as red or bright blue. If you have dark buttons set up in your vocabulary, you would want to use a white or bright yellow pointer. Pointer visual effects, pointer color. Select a desired color from the color spectrum. The default color is red.
What? What?
Pointer size. You can also adjust the size of the pointer. Pointer size, and adjust the size with the plus and minus buttons. The larger the number, the larger the pointer. As a rule of thumb, the larger the pointer, the more transparent you would want it to be, and vice versa. If you are using a larger pointer, you would then also want to adjust the opacity.
More. More.
Pointer shape. There are two options for the shape of the pointer. One is a shrinking dot and the other is an arrow, much like a cursor. Most people prefer the shrinking dot, and it is more commonly used in the field while in communication software. If the individual is using other applications on the Chat Fusion, they might want to use the arrow or cursor instead. Pointer shape. First, the shrinking dot.
I like it.
Now the arrow.
I like that. I like that.
Hide pointer. If you check this option when you are within a chat software vocabulary, the pointer itself will be hidden from view. If you were to use a general visual effects such as magnification or inverse, you might want to turn off the pointer itself and you would see the button visual effects only. Note this would only apply while you were within the chat software. Additional visual effects. In addition to changing the visual effects on the pointer itself, you can also turn on visual effects for the buttons. The buttons themselves can have a border, translucent overlay, invert colors, magnify, and animate. These visual effects would be helpful additional visual cues within the chat software as to which button you are selecting. As you move over the buttons, each button would be highlighted with the visual effect you have set up. I will demo these one by one, but you can use them in any combination. Outline. Check the option and then you can select the outline color and width. Menu, Settings, Input, Visual Effects, Outline, check the box, then select the color and outline width.
Turn. Around. Turn around.
Translucent overlay. The entire button is highlighted in a thin layer of color. In WordPower, this is a good option because it's such a colorful program and the outline may not show. You can also adjust the degree or percentage opacity as well as the color of the overlay. Visual Effects. Check Translucent Overlay, and then you can adjust the overlay opacity and color. This will be a combo of outline and translucent overlay.
What? Color. What color?
Invert colors. This highlights the entire button with the inverse of the current colors. It is a good visual cue. It's easy to see. Saltillo has introduced the new option of combining translucent overlay with invert colors. Visual Effects, Invert colors.
Hello. How are you? Hello, how are you?
This combines invert color, outline, and translucent overlay.
I'm fine.
Magnify. The active area is magnified as the pointer goes over the button. You can then select the magnification amount by adjusting the percentage. It needs to be at least 101% to magnify it all. For a small amount of magnification, go to 150%, and for a really robust magnification, change it to 250 or higher. Magnify, then adjust the multiplier. We will demo two different sizes, a small amount of magnification and then a higher multiplier.
What's up? What's up? No way.
Pop-up menus. There are two pop-up menus available to the user on the screen. The top pop-up menu. At the top of the screen is a pop-up menu with three options. The first, Pause. It allows you to look at the top of the screen and not select anything. If you select this, you can toggle between active and paused. Green indicates the head pointing is active. When the user selects Pause, the field turns red and displays paused. Selecting Pause turns the field green and displays active and then pause. The second option on the right is press and hold. For example, if you were in edit mode and you wanted to select a button to edit, you would go to this and then go to the button you want to edit. The third is the click and drag button. For example, if you wanted to move a button to a different location, you would select this. Navigation pop-up menu. This pop-up menu is at the bottom of the screen and allows you to quickly access the menu, home, and back buttons on the Chat Fusion. It essentially gives you a larger target for these menu buttons. When Show Navigation pop-up menu is turned on, the bottom pop-up menu slides up when the user moves the pointer off the bottom of the screen and in the center. Rest Area. The Rest Area feature allows the user to have an inactive or rest area surrounding the most recent activation point. This area allows the user to rest in that spot before moving to the next selection. Check Show Rest Area. If you have checked this, there will be a light circle around the most recent activation.
Open. This. Open this.
Rest Area Size. You can then adjust the size of the rest area. Rest Area Size. Use button as rest area. If you check Use button as rest area, the most recent button within a vocabulary will act as the rest area. If you change pages, the button that is in the same place as the previous page will be the rest button. This is a really great option to use with the chat software and allows the individual to pause once they have changed pages to visually scan the page. If Use button as rest area is turned on, the rest area size setting will not adjust the size of the rest area within the chat software vocabulary pages. It will only adjust the size of the rest area within the operating system. Advanced Settings. Most Chat Fusion users who are primarily using the device for communication purposes, or those who have a locked or dedicated device, will not access or benefit from changing the advanced settings. Some of these settings may be more useful outside of the chat software when playing games or using other apps on the operating system. Tap Menu, Settings, Input, Head Pointing, and Advanced. Smoothing. The smoothing feature allows you to compensate for minor shakiness or tremors, in turn reducing accidental button activations. The number you select tells your device how far you must move out of one button location before a second button is activated. If you select a smoothing number higher than 1, ChatPoint will lag behind any head movements the user makes. The higher the number you select, up to 5, the further into a button's area you must move before the button will become highlighted. In effect, smoothing creates a box that surrounds the average horizontal and vertical values defined by where the individual is pointing. The lower the value, the smaller the box, requiring less movement to change the pointer's position. The higher the value, the larger the box, requiring greater movement to change the pointer's position.
Play. Again.
Dwell method. There are 3 options in addition to the normal dwell method you would most likely use within the chat software. I will demo the use of these features outside the chat software. The first is Clicker Picker. This would be useful for someone who does a lot of programming. It gives you a circle around the pointer with 3 different colors to choose from depending on what action you want to do. It's up and green for activate, lower left and red is for drag, and lower right and yellow is press and hold. I'm able to explore the photo file and slide across the screen to access other photos not in view. Sir Drag-A-Lot. This would be useful if you were going to be working outside the chat software a lot, doing a lot of gaming, and other things like that require a lot of dragging with a cursor or pointer. Tick-Tock. This is similar to Clicker Picker, but instead of using a different direction and color for each type of selection, it depends more on the amount of time you dwell. Depending on the amount of time, the pointer will show a different type of clock. The first clock, in a gray outline, activates the button. Once the second clock with a black outline starts, then it activates just like Direct Select. If you move off at the start of the spin, then it drags. If you hold further into the spin, or a dwell, then it activates a push and hold. Secondary dwell time. You can set the time allowed to choose among tap, drag, and long click with the advanced settings. Tap secondary dwell time and adjust as necessary. Averaging. You would turn on averaging if the user has trouble staying on a single button. For example, when the pointer moves back and forth between two buttons, Chat Point will select the button on which the pointer spends more time. Show averaging details. Turn on Show Averaging Details only if you want to see graphical representations of how averaging works. Most users will have no need for this setting. This is with averaging details turned on.
Can you help me with this? Can you help me with this?
Profiles. It is going to be important to set up a profile with the desired settings once you get them where you want them. You can save multiple profiles for various users, access methods, and settings. You will first create a profile for the user with their settings. Go to Menu, Settings, Profiles, New, give the profile a name, tap Save. The next step would be to save the current settings in a profile. Menu, Settings, Profiles, and Save. Select the profile name you want and then save. For more information about other alternative access options and features offered with Saltillo devices and chat software, please visit these alternative access tutorials. Thank you for joining us. For more information, please visit us at saltillo.com. You can keep up with Saltillo by signing up for our newsletter. We hope you will join us on social media and other tutorials.